That's my baby.
I'm dying.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored. They did it.
Left, beat left.
What the hell was that?
Oh yeah. What the fuck are you talking about?
We're talking about the weekly roundup on A2D Radio every Tuesday, 10 o'clock. Me and Daniel, tons of shenanigans, tons of fun. And, you know, you guys usually seem to enjoy being a part of it. So, you know, like usual, nothing's changed, and it's going to be an even bigger party because the Phillies, Daniel, the Phillies have done it. Oh my God! It's like the monkey getting off your, you know, the monkey off your back feeling. Finally, after all this time, all these, you know. No, I'm not okay. Tom, am I ever okay? Are you okay? Yeah, my first time. I don't know. Like the time, you know. I guess the timing. What are you talking about? I don't know. The timing of our videos are different. I don't know. Maybe it's not synced up on my end in Florida with the way it is in Daniel's end in Jersey. But I mean. Good Lord, what are you talking about? Are we starting this a minute into the show, Tom? Are we really starting this? Are we really starting this? What do you think of the poll question, Tom?
Cheers.
Rob Thomson will become the next Charlie Manuel. That's our poll question, or could turn into the next Charlie Manuel. He will turn into the next Charlie Manuel, and take that question in a couple different ways because there's a lot of things about it that we're going to talk about, me and Daniel. But if you're looking to buy or sell a home or looking for a change in career or brokerage, you can contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty LLC at 302-682-8820 or visit him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. I apologize if there was some sort of silence at the beginning of the show. I'm guessing from the comments from Tom that there was. Were we a little out of sync, Daniel?
There's a delay with the StreamYard.
Is that what it was? Okay. Because I kept trying to do my little, like, where I come in and out with my face as we go live. But for some reason, it wouldn't go live, so I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was something on my connection. But so there was a delay, and then all of a sudden it messed everything up. But hey, yeah. You wouldn't have it any other way, would you have it? Yeah, it's normal for a Tuesday night with us. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
A lot like this Philly season, been all over the place, ups and downs. Kind of like, what the fuck are we? You know, at times you're just like, is this like, are you okay? Is this real life? Like, but you know, here we are, we're in the playoffs, and anything can happen now. And, you know, Rob Thomson is a guy that I guess I'll kind of, you know, answer the poll question in my own way to it. But me and you talked about this last night, and we really liked the way that this poll question was kind of worded because, you know, Charlie Manuel was a guy when he first got here that we were kind of like, when he became manager, we're like, just he's not, you know, country bumpkin, just not really what you would expect from a Philly guy. But then we grew to love him because we realized everything about his competitive fire and what he is as a competitor and a winner and a leader is what we wanted and what we, you know, love, you know, as Philadelphia fans. And I think Rob Thomson could kind of grow into that similar role, right? Where, you know, when he, you know, Girardi, we were kind of like, man, we thought that was the guy that was going to match up with everything we wanted from a Philly fan base type of mentality. And it just kind of just didn't mesh. It just didn't work for whatever reason. And Thomson steps in and we think, okay, he'll just fill this role for the rest of the year and we'll go in a different direction. And whatever the sexy name is, you'll see what happens in the offseason. And all of a sudden he's grown into somebody that he, you know, if we go win a World Series here, he's folk hero-ish, isn't he? I mean, like all of a sudden, you know, it's like, yeah, this is a guy that goes down in all eternity as a Philly sports hero for us. And Charlie Manuel kind of grew into that role over time. We didn't like him early on. We kind of started liking him a little, you know, more and more. And then he wins a World Series, and the guy's a legend here. To this day, you know, he shows up at spring training in any, you know, way, shape, or form, and it's just he's a rock star, right? He's always going to be the guy that we're going to show tons of love to because of everything that happened during his tenure here. And the last time we were relevant and we won, you know, we were winning anything, he was the guy. It was 11 years ago, 2011, you know, last time we make the playoffs, and, you know, everything's kind of come full circle. The Cardinals ended that little, magical 5-year stretch that we had. And now we get a chance to kind of end a little bit of a magical carpet ride that they've got going with Wainwright and Pujols and Yadier Molina being like, oh, they want one last run. Who would, we would love nothing more than to stick it to them, wouldn't we? And I'm kind of, I'm on board for this whole Rob Thomson will turn into the next Charlie Manuel thing. I really am. I agree with it, in different ways, right? He's not, they're different personalities, but I think the idea that when Rob Thomson first took over the manager role of this team, I don't think any of us thought we would ever grow to be like, hey, we love this guy. We just, cool, it's better than what we had, but we weren't really thinking anything of it.
He kind of had a strange path to becoming the manager because if everybody remembers, he kind of got poached.
Baseball guy.
Yeah, he got poached to the Phillies from the Dodgers. Gabe Kapler took him away from Joe Girardi for the most part. Then
he was a bench coach, that type of guy.
Yeah.
Was with Girardi when the Yankees were winning World Series and all that. But yeah, we took him, and he's just kind of been that guy that's always been, I guess, somebody on your bench, but not really anybody anybody would have ever thought would be a manager type guy. But here we are. I know you love the guy. You love him, don't you?
I just like the type of manager that he is. Like, players manager. He's there. He doesn't have to say much. He has the respect of the team, but he knows how to manage at the certain times. That's why I agreed to a certain extent at the poll that he would turn into the next Charlie Manager, because they have the same philosophy in a sense, but they do it their own way. Just like I said, he came in with Gabe Kapler as his guy. Gabe Kapler gets axed. And then Joe Girardi comes in, ironically, keeps him, and then Joe Girardi gets fired, and then he still stays here. It's like this guy keeps on staying here.
What if we would have just hired Rob Thomson initially at the beginning of this whole process when we hired Kapler? What if we would have just hired Thomson as manager? I mean, what would have happened? Like, does this drought end a couple years ago? I mean, who really knows here? I'm glad this has all happened, I guess, the way it has. Right, because I love that he's here now, and it looks like there's no way you're letting this guy go now. You're going to find a way to, to sign him long term, even though you have to technically do other interviews. You're going to find a way, I guess, to. We all know at this point he's earned the job going forward. So I'm glad that's the case. But yeah, I don't. None of us ever would have thought this was going to be the thing. I mean, even. Yeah. 2-3 years ago, we were talking about more like Dusty Wathan might be the guy. Dusty spent a ton of time coaching guys like Hoskins and all that as the manager in the minor leagues, and we thought he might be the guy. None of us were talking about Thomson, but here we are. What were they going to do? Put up "fuck you" on the scoreboard? I mean, how classy! Like, I mean.
Did you see the meme out there now that they're trying to get good with everybody now, so they put "Congratulations, Phillies," and then everybody's like, "We still know who you are."
Grow up, like, oh well, they were cheating. I know, and Babe Ruth injected himself with sheep testosterone back in the day. Grow up, people cheat. That's what happens. Do you see this fishing tournament in Ohio that's been going viral? The fucking the fishing tournament on the Great Lakes that pays like $30,000 for winners to fishing tournaments, and these dudes were stuffing 3-pound egg weights. For anybody that understands fishing and is a fisher of any kind, even if you're just an avid fisherman. But yeah, they were catching these fish and then somehow stuffing them with weights to make them heavier. So when you go to weigh in at the tournament, instead of the fish being 4 pounds, it's 7 pounds, and you add up the cumulative weight of all the fish. And that's how you determine the winner. And therefore, they were winning by cheating. They finally got caught after dominating these tournaments for 2 years and winning a ton of money and all this. They get caught. This shit's not just, it happens everywhere. This is the way sports works. If you're playing a competitive sport of any kind, people try to cheat. And some people are really good at it and other people suck at it. And that's just the way it goes. And the people that suck are the ones that get caught. And the people that are good at it never get caught. And you're like, oh, well, that guy was clean. No, he was just really good at cheating. That's usually the reality of it. Is he was just good enough at cheating where you didn't catch him. So I mean,
but I'm gonna say that it's no coincidence that when he took over, JT Realmuto woke up from his slow start, started hitting the ball well. Of course, the whole team started hitting well. It was around the time, of course, like we said, Bryce Harper went out, so he took over. And I think, I was always saying that it was that everybody woke up because he had to step up because Bryce Harper was out. But it was around the time that Girardi got fired and he took over. Maybe he just took over and was told everybody, okay, next man up. We got to get going. We can fill the holes until he comes back and get things going. You look at September.
I think the changing point.
What was Aaron Nola's one thing with his career? He always did bad in September.
Well, that's true.
What was his ERA this September? Under 3.0. It was like 2.85 or something like that.
Phenomenal last night. Everything you needed last night.
Yeah. He was ballsy enough last night to put in Zach Eflin as the closer, which I think somebody asked who you can have close the team. And
Does Joe Girardi make that move?
No, he doesn't.
Joe Girardi doesn't do that. No way.
He keeps going Hector Neris. That's what he keeps
going. Yeah, he goes status quo.
Guys.
Right.
Yeah.
He goes status quo. And me and you were talking about this last night where, I'm with you. I'm with you, Chrome, and that's why we loved it. I'm with you. Aggressive poll question. Chrome's a Cardinals fan. So, go ahead, Chrome. I'm with you. No, Chrome's a Cardinal. I like the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a good organization, but we owe you guys one. We owe you guys one from everything that happened in 2011 and kind of just ending everything that was that magical run that we had. But yeah, I'm with you. It is an aggressive poll question, and that's why I love it. But, for me, what was the turning point with Thompson was when Odubel Herrera got benched and then, like, a week later got designated for assignment after he just randomly stopped running out that play. I don't even really know how to describe it. I remember he hit that ball. I think it was in San Fran against the Giants. And just, I don't know what the hell he thought was going on, but he just randomly stops running. And Thompson kind of gave him one of those like old school baseball, like, what the fuck are you doing expressions as he came to the dugout. And there was more to that. Like publicly, he probably didn't chew him up from the dugout because it's an old school thing. But if you think that wasn't a conversation in the clubhouse, like, what is this? And you're not like, first of all, you're not like, after everything you've been through, you're not somebody that can just do that and get away with it without like that gets you cut. Like you're out of a job. And next thing you know, he was out of a job. And maybe that for me was the turning point because it just changes the mentality. It just kind of changes the idea and the attitude, of what this whole thing is. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it last night with when it comes to the playoffs, everybody on your 25-man roster has to have a role or else they're a waste of a roster spot. That's the way the playoffs works.
I feel
so Zach Eflin.
Like right now, I feel like Alvarado, he is your top lefty out of the bullpen, and then maybe he should be your setup man. I feel like he's done a great job in that 7-8 role.
At this point, like the way the playoffs work is it's an inning by inning thing.
Yeah.
But you like Alvarado can get you guys out at any. Like I know I trust Alvarado to get me guys out in the 6th inning, the 7th inning, the 8th inning. I trust him to get me guys out. He's established his role as a guy that you really, really trust in high leverage situations in your bullpen. And, I think for me, it's that. Like, you've got high leverage guys, and then who's going to be your guy? Because in the playoffs, this will happen. Even your ace, you're going to have an ace that goes 4 innings because the way the playoffs work is you're not fucking around with your ace. Oh, if he struggles a little bit early on, you might have to make a move. That's the way the playoffs work now. You don't stick around with a guy, because I have to get 7 innings out of my ace. Well, that's not the way it works. You might have to make a move after 3 2/3. And who's going to be your guy that's now going to go get you, 3 innings out of the bullpen and long relief? You got to have a guy that you can trust with that.
Yeah,
and
shout out
Eflin,
to Kevin for the $4.99 super sticker right there.
There we go.
There we go. Which Philly is the game changer come playoffs? I think.
That's what becomes funny. You could have quite a few guys depending on how you manage these playoff games. And the playoffs. This is really where. This is why I said like the Yankees won't win anything because this is where you actually have to start managing the game because the playoffs, it becomes an inning by inning thing and you actually have to manage it. And guys like Aaron Boone, who Aaron Judge leadoff, they don't know how to fucking manage a baseball game. Like they just, go out there and win me the game because you guys are really good. Well, at some point, that's not good enough. You've got to make decisions at some point throughout the course of a game. That just, it's the way it goes. And certain guys are better at it than others. I don't trust Aaron Boone to go make me those decisions. This is where, this Thompson conversation becomes fun because like you said with the Eflin thing, you brought up yesterday, I thought it was a good comparison. I don't, it's not like 100% spot on, but it is like it's in the ballpark. the Brett Myers thing in 2007 when Charlie Manuel and Rich Doobie and the Phillies coaching staff found a way where, Tom Gordon was hurt. We needed somebody in the back of the bullpen that could close games. Brett Myers was kind of a guy that, has that bulldog mentality to him, and they found a role for him. And down the stretch, he became a guy that was really, really big and finally going to clinch that playoff spot and making everything happen. It does not happen if he doesn't settle into the closer's role the way that he does.
And then Eflin came back from injury, so you knew he wasn't going to go back into the starting rotation. He's not going to
be in the rotation in the playoffs regardless. Once you traded for Syndergaard, you knew that wasn't going to be the case. One way or another,
and
your rotation –
Ironically, both are probably going to be in the bullpen, but that could be a plus because you got
I still think Syndergaard's my 4. I still think my rotation for the playoffs is probably it's going to be Nola, Wheeler, Gibson, Syndergaard. That's probably my 4. I mean, who's your 4? So.
Well,
obviously, it's Nola, Wheeler, Gibson, and then you disagree about 4.
I don't even think with how he's been playing that Gibson has earned it. I don't even think he's earned it.
Regardless, he has to be in my rotation. I mean, you have to be 4 deep, and Gibson has to be one of the 4.
Okay, so then he's my 4. My number 3, which some people might not agree with me, is
Suarez.
Barely Falter. With how he's played the last 2 months of the season, I want to go with the hot hand and -1 bad start. If you look at everything that he's done, he's gone 6 innings and he's given up 2 earned runs or less in every game.
I'll rock with that. I could rock with Falter over Syndergaard.
And then when everybody was playing bad, he was the one pitcher playing good during that stretch. You remember they played San Fran,
I could rock with Falter in the rotation.
I would put him at the 3. Like he's the guy that
I might too, but Gibson's still my 4. I mean, if it comes down to Gibson and Syndergaard right now out of the bullpen.
You just had Suarez today give up 6 earned runs, and then I think
I'm with you.
He had a good one,
but Suarez is a guy that all of a sudden come playoff time, I love what he can be for me. And Syndergaard too. See, now, like this is where all of a sudden you become really deep and be like, like Syndergaard. Well, you're going to be 4 deep in your rotation. If Nola and Wheeler are your 1 and 2, depending on your matchups, you match them 1 and 2. Until further notice, I guess I'm with you right now. Falter's my 3, but that could change depending on what happens.
Yeah.
But I know
you could do a 4 where you have an opener and then have a guy come in and do
right. So I know Nola and Wheeler are going to pitch and actually you're going to start a game. Now I might go 3 and 4 could be Gibson and Falter in some way, and I might only go with the strategy of you guys are only going to go give me 4 innings tops, 5 innings tops, and then we're going to move the Suarez or something like that. But you have options now. You have Suarez. You have Syndergaard. They both can go give you 4 or 5 innings out of your bullpen if you need them. Eflin can do the same if you really needed him to, but now Eflin's also established himself in a role where, and this is what was big about that last night, you feel like Suarez and Syndergaard are going to be your long relief guys in the playoffs. So when you have your starter only go 3-4 innings, all of a sudden Suarez or Syndergaard come into a game, maybe Suarez goes 2, Syndergaard goes 2. Well, now you're in the 7th inning and you're going to your bullpen combination that you won in that point of the game anyway. So Eflin was almost in a spot where you don't need 3 long relief guys. It's nice to have an emergency long relief guy, I guess, and Eflin can be that guy, but you almost needed him to have another role. And if you can, it doesn't matter who you are. Come playoff time, if you can get guys out in the late innings of a playoff game, you're super valuable. You just become a guy that all of a sudden becomes a big weapon for me that I otherwise didn't have. And that's where Eflin all of a sudden becomes a weapon, if he can become that guy consistently.
And he's like a 3-4 pitch type guy. And in that closer spot where he's so used to pitching 90 pitches, you thrust him into there, he can be more selective with
you bring him in the 7th and he can get you through the 7th and the 8th, right? Like he can you can trust that, okay, I don't even have to, that this is like I'm stretching him. I brought him in at the there's 2 outs in the 6th and you bring him in then. And then he pitches you the 7th and the 8th or maybe get you 2 outs in the 8th before you go to you're back into the bullpen combination where it's Alvarado and it's Hand and it's whoever else you want it to be in that situation, because you're going to mix and match in the playoffs or the situation where you might just have a guy, pitch to 2 or 3 batters, and then, because they're bringing in a lefty, now I'm going to, I'm gonna try to sit here and manage with you. But you have options. I like how deep we are all of a sudden.
You see, that's the interesting thing. We got to see when Hand is going to be ready, because game 1's going to be on Friday. That's how soon it is. It's like Tuesday, Wednesday. You got Thursday off.
When was Hand supposed to be ready?
I have to look. It depends on when he exactly went, because he went on the 10-day DL. I got to see when he went on that. So it all depends on that.
That's probably retroactive to the last time he pitched, though. And when was the last time he pitched?
I gotta look. The last time
been quite a while.
The 20th. So.
Oh, so he's plenty good.
So he just hasn't been taken off. So it depends on what they have him with. So we got Greg. What's up, fellas? I agree. I'll agree.
See, Greg's a next level thinker. I love Greg. See, that's why me and Greg Malakovich have always been. I'll talk sports with Greg. I'll have a beer and talk sports with Greg anytime. Let's go to another Phillies game, Greg. Damn it. Get down here and let's go to a Braves playoff game together. We'll go to a Phillies-Braves playoff game in Atlanta. Come on, baby. Make it happen with me. See, Greg sees what I'm saying. Depending on how you want to look at it, people are like, oh, well, nobody could be the next Charlie Manuel. Well, nobody's a country bumpkin from West Virginia the way Charlie was, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, like, how we went from a guy that we didn't really think we were ever going to love, and there was no chance of us loving, to a guy that becomes a folk hero. We love the guy, Charlie Manuel's legendary in this city to the day he dies, and then hell, until after he dies, for that matter. He'll always be a legend here. And when you win, magical things happen. But yeah, Thompson has that. He's got that type of feel for me. We didn't, none of us thought this would be the case. We were already lining up candidates to take his job to begin next year. But here we are, and things sometimes happen that you don't expect, and you're happy about them. Sometimes you're like, oh. I hate the fact that this happened. Other times you're like, I love the fact that this, we didn't really expect this, but it came out of nowhere and it's happened the way it has. So, I know. Yeah, Tom's always been a huge Charlie Manuel guy. So, if you want to look at it like that, like when Charlie Manuel first got here in 2005, I remember hating Charlie Manuel as like a 13-year-old kid when he first got here. I think because I loved Larry Bowa so much, and for me, he was kind of like this anti-Larry Bowa type guy. But we didn't realize Charlie had his own sort of fire. There was this other sort of competitive fire that Charlie had, that maybe he showed it differently than guys like Larry Bowa did. But once we came to understand what it was, we loved it. And Thompson, I think, is the same way. And I said, like, for me, that's why that changing point was the Odubel Herrera thing. When we showed, hey, that's unacceptable. That can't happen. And a week later he was gone. He was released. He was designated for assignment. That shows something. That's actions speak louder than words sort of leadership. And I like that with Rob. So, I guess I'll hope, obviously you got to go do a lot of winning, before he becomes, anything close to Charlie Manuel. But I hope he turns into that sort of guy. And if it progresses the way the Charlie Manuel thing did, and you do enough winning, he absolutely can turn into the next Charlie Manuel.
What time are you guys hearing? Day or night?
It always becomes like a dinner time game. Even it'll be like 4:30 or so, 5:30. I'd love it if it's 8 o'clock. But my guess, it's Phillies Cardinals. That to me has like an 8 o'clock sort of feel. It really does. Because MLB they've always loved the Cardinals in primetime. They love them on ESPN. They love them on Fox.
They always like the top matchup, which would be of course, the Padres and.
But that's late night, right? They go do that game at 10 o'clock. That would be the late game.
No, because I think game 1 would be in New York. It would be on Eastern time. They more than likely would try.
That's probably the 3:30 game.
You put that infamous 3:30 game where they wanted to have the best team in that spot during the day. And then this game would be at St. Louis, which would be Central Time. So then they would make that the later game. And then they like to match up the NL one day and the AL another day. They've been trying to do that. So I could see it being like the 3:30 game and then like a 7 or 8 o'clock game. They try to balance it out. so they can
St.
make sure
Louis,
there's
like
no,
the Cardinals, it's one of those things, especially
Yeah.
Busch Stadium. Like it just seems like it's different when they play there at like 8 o'clock at night. Like there is that, like, it's like, Chrome will tell you, and Phillies fans will get mad. Oh, baseball heaven. Well, the reason why is because it's just, there's a certain thing about the Midwestern air at 8 o'clock at night, like that's why, like, it really is. So like if the game's at Busch Stadium, MLB wants it at 8 o'clock. It's just the perfect time for everything for them from what it would be from a ratings perspective and all that.
And it's a Friday, which everybody's off work for the most part.
Yeah, it's a
the
money
weekend.
maker. That's an easy time slot.
You get everybody tuned in. And like,
because New York City will sell regardless. Like they could go play a Mets game at 3:30, 1:30. They could go play it at fucking 3:30 in the morning, and like New Yorkers will show the fuck up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is, let's be honest, it's New York. It's one of the cities that never sleeps, right? Like, it's just the way it goes. Like,
I think as its standpoints right now with how they have everything lined up, I actually bet that Wheeler doesn't start tomorrow. They push him back.
You would think. Feel like you want to set up your rotation, yeah.
You want to set up your rotation. I as much as I really want Nola to be that game one guy,
let Syndergaard pitch tomorrow.
He could. I want him on 5 days rest. I want him.
Can Andrew Painter make his debut? Is that still a thing? Why not let Andrew Painter pitch tomorrow? What do you got to lose?
He could, but I could see them having Zach Wheeler start game one, Nola come back at game two, which would likely be Saturday, which I would love. It'd be Tuesday, so then be Monday, so then be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That'd be Saturday. Would be 5 days right there. Be perfect, and then you go from there. You got Wheeler 4 days rest, and then you got Nola 4 or 5 days rest, and then you're good to go. And then the goal is to at least, you always want to try and steal one away, but I believe it's home, away, home. I believe, right? Not home.
I don't. Away. You'd have to go look at that. I don't quite. I'm not. I don't. They keep switching the format. It seems like every year, and nobody ever fucking knows anything.
And I know this one's a 3. I know this one's a 3 game, so you just the first to 2 wins.
This is where once I get past Wheeler and Nola, I think I like to mix and match. This is why I have options, because Gibson can start, Falter can start. We know Noah Syndergaard could start. Ranger Suarez, for the most part, has been solid. I know he got hit around the day, but whatever, that can happen. But depending on who's pitching for the other team, that might depend on what I go on my end. For the pitching matchup that day, because that's the way the playoffs work. It's got to be a game by game, inning by inning thing. It's just how it is now.
They got Bailey Falter pitching tomorrow, but then it's locked up.
That's all right.
But the Cardinals are the first game right now. That's what they have. It could change because there's 4 games on Friday. The Cards game, you got the Braves game, then the Guardians, and then the Blue Jays. But
with the Cardinals, I really like Nola and Wheeler, how they match up with them, because the Cardinals, Nola especially, if Nola's thing is he doesn't walk anybody. He's always in the zone, right? So we saw that.
If you look at both Wheeler and Nola, their strikeout to walk ratio is just enormous.
Now, difference is one guy's a power guy, another guy's a little bit more finesse. With Nola, though, we just saw he's the first guy since 1884 to have over 220 plus strikeouts and less than 30 walks in a season. That's fucking insanity. Now, here's where Nola gets himself in a little bit of trouble, though, with that, because he's always in the zone. When his sinker doesn't have like the movement and the bite on it that it needs, and it stays a little flat, he's in the zone. So when you're always in the zone and your sinker's a little flat, you can get hit around a little bit, and that's where he'll find himself in trouble. But if he can pitch like he did last night, like he was sharp. That's what when he's throwing like he was last night for the first 6 innings of that game, like he's unhittable. Like they really is. Like the best lineup, they're going to have trouble against it.
They said the 3 starts before that he wasn't even using his curveball ball, and then he started using it last night, and then it was just insane.
And his curveball was last night. But I really like how Nola matches up. If you look at the Cardinals lineup, Goldschmidt and Arenado, and Pujols, and all these guys that you look at and go, they're all great hitters. They have great approaches and great. It's not like they're just swing and miss home run guys. Like they all, they'll drive the ball to all fields, and Arenado and Goldschmidt especially, right? So
yeah,
a guy like Nola with a sharp sinker, if it's on, that's where guys like Goldschmidt and Arenado can struggle, against a guy like Nola who can pinpoint a 92-mile-per-hour sinker on the black at the knees on the outside corner. And good luck, because even if you're hitting it, you're not going to drive the ball out of the ballpark, most likely. The only way that's happening is he leaves it up in the zone a little bit. So if he's on, I really like how he can match up against the Cardinals lineup. Wheeler, well, he's a guy that's more of a power guy, and same thing. A lot of times, if you can locate power stuff against a lineup like that, you're in good shape. So I like my matchup there. And then, like I said, now this is where I'll mix and match. Maybe Syndergaard is a good matchup against the Cardinals because he's a little bit more power stuff and things like that. Barely falter as much as I'm a fan of it, and I like how he's pitched, and Ranger Suarez, same thing. You throw a lefty, a finesse lefty, or maybe that's not even the right term with guys like Arenado. You got these really, 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 solid, right-handed hitters in a lineup against. I don't necessarily like my lefty matchup against the Cardinals the way I might against other lineups. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I might try to mix and match that depending on what the Cardinals are throwing at me. But I love Nola and Wheeler against the Cardinals.
And then they're going to send out. Their 1 and 2 is going to be Mikolas and of course Rainwhite. 2, and then 3 would probably Montgomery. That's probably the 3 guys.
I think we have the pitching advantage, and we owe Wainwright so. I mean, like this, guy's a great pitcher, future Hall of Famer, but we owe you one, motherfucker. Like we owe you one. We really do. Like we just do. And same thing with Yadier, Molina, and Pujols. We just owe those guys one. And Mikolas against Nola. Well, I think advantage us.
It'll be a good matchup because I do like Mikolas. He has good stuff.
He does, but he can be hit around a little bit too. He can be a little bit hit and miss. A little bit hit and miss. Same thing with Montgomery. Montgomery can shut you down, but he can also have outings where he just blows up and gives up 5 runs in 3 innings, and you're like, okay,
Boy, wouldn't it be good? Boy, wouldn't it be good if we could get at least 7 or 8 innings from Nola and Wheeler? Just have that go to Eflin and Alvarado, whatever order you want to do. Boom, boom, boom. Get them out right away.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take 6. I'll take 6 out of those guys, right? Give me 6 innings of 1-run ball in the playoffs, and I'll take it every single playoff game if you can give me 6 innings of 1-run ball. Because I feel like at that point, my bullpen should be set up to a point where I trust myself to go win that game at that point.
Yeah, because right now it's better, even though they're struggling. It's better to go against them right now than it is to go up against guys like DeGrom and Scherzer. Even though I feel like the Mets hitting has been struggling a lot the last month, that they let their lead slip, and that's why the Braves overtook them. And even DeGrom and Scherzer have been hittable the past couple outings, but still, even then, with how we played St. Louis this year. They're a team that gets hot in the playoffs. Of course, St. Louis is notorious for being good when it matters, but we match up, just like you said, we match up well against their pitchers. We just need that timely hitting. That's where it's like, okay, if you look at yesterday, first pitch, first at bat.
Castellanos will be back, won't he? Will Castellanos be back by Friday?
He pitched. I mean, he played yesterday.
Castellanos did?
Yeah, he's been back for a couple of days already.
I thought he went on the IL 5 days ago. I watched the whole game yesterday. At least I thought. Good Lord, I know I was drinking, but there's no way I missed him yesterday. He wasn't in the starting lineup yesterday, was he?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
I don't think he was in the starting. He wasn't in the starting lineup today.
No, not today. He wasn't in today. He was in yesterday. He batted 6.
Did he really? Okay. Well, good Lord. I told you I need to stop drinking, so holy hell.
Yeah, no. But just like yesterday, you get that first pitch, first at bat, Kyle Schwarber hits a home run. makes it 1-0 right away. You want to get up on them early.
You know something with Schwarber? My favorite thing about that first pitch, smoked it, and he knew it was going. And the little bat flip was like, "Hey, let's go, boys! Jump on my back and let's go win this thing." You know, like that little attitude is just that swag about it that makes you, it's different, right? Like, and then people are like, "Oh, yeah, I can't stand when somebody bat flips." Fuck you! That bat flip set the fucking tone from the very beginning. Crushes the ball to the opposite field, little flip of the bat. Knew it was gone.
It's something. It's something that calms down.
Like type of attitude.
It's something that not only calms down the team, but it calms down Nola, who's getting ready to pitch. He's like, "Okay, I'm coming in here with the early 1-0 lead. Let's go. I can kind of come in a little bit loose, not too loose, but loose enough to where I can mess around with my pitches." Maybe he decided to add the curveball into it yesterday, which was one of his big pitches, like I said, that he hadn't been doing. Now he's throwing it in there. He got some confidence and he got it going. And then he gets taken out. And then it's like, okay, Alvarado comes in the seventh, gets a timely good 2-ounce right away. Then you have, of course, once again, Kyle Schwarber comes up in the top of the 8th, and he hits another home run. And then Stotts hits one right afterwards. And then it was 3-0. It's like,
I mean,
time
going into that 8th inning, did you not feel like you had to get at least one insurance run?
Yes, it's always good to have those insurance runs. So okay,
you felt like you couldn't win a 1-0 game. There was no way you were going to win a 1-0 game. And then Bryson stopped and lead off the inning. You're just like, fuck yeah, there it is. That was the one that felt like you could breathe a little.
Look at the Brewers-Marlins game. It was 4-1, 2 outs, and the Brewers come back and win that game in extras, being down twice. They were down 4-1, tied 4-4. Then they were down 5-4, and then they won 6-5. So it's like the more insurance runs, the better. And our pitching was just on point yesterday. First Nola, then Alvarado, and then Eklund. And the one good thing having a guy that's a starter is he went through that one last at bat where there was 6 foul balls, and being a starter, he's okay with it. He's so used to pitching 90+ pitches. He's okay taking those couple extra ones because he's only going 1 inning. So he's trying to pitch around. He finally got him, got the out, and did what he needed to do. It was nice. It was a nice thing. I'm hoping that once we get into the playoffs, the JT Realmuto steps up again. That's a guy, I said it before, I felt like he was one of the MVPs of the team this year. When your catcher is in the top, like I'm not saying this as a big deal, but when your catcher is in the top 10 in stolen bases and you don't expect him to be, but he goes 21 for 21 in stolen bases, he hits for you, he hits almost 300. He's been on fire since August. He woke up ever since Rob Thomsonand took over. He has showed he is one of the best catchers in the league. That's why he's hitting in that 3-4 spot in the lineup.
He's thrown out. He threw out over 20 base runners, and then he stole over 20 bases, and then he hit over 20 home runs. And how about I'll one up you here? How about this? Let's just keep this. Let's make this as simple as possible. Yeah. Anytime you become the second player to do anything at the catcher position, and the only other guy to do it was Ivan Rodriguez, you're really fucking good. Okay, let's just keep it as simple as that, right? Because Pudge is arguably, we had Rafael Palmeiro on. He played with Pudge, and he said, greatest catcher I've ever seen. And when you look at it, you go, okay, it's hard to argue with that. I matter of fact, I agree. I think Pudge is the greatest catcher I've ever seen too. Now, obviously, I didn't watch Johnny Bench and guys like that, but to me, Pudge Rodriguez is the greatest catcher of all time, and then Yadier Molina to me is number 2, because those are just the guys I've watched in my in my area, in my generation growing up. But anytime as a catcher you join a category where Pudge Rodriguez is the only other catcher to do it, you're really fucking good. And then I'll go out to say that the third best catcher I've ever seen is Mike Piazza, and the only reason he's third is because Piazza is by far the best offensive catcher I've ever seen. But defensively, he was nothing close to the guys that Pudge and Yachty and JT Realmuto are.
JT Realmuto had to carry it defensively and offensively. It's not like, okay, he's just defensively doing what he needs to do. This guy had to fill in for Bryce Harper.
He's been everything this year. I mean, look at it all the way around. That's insane. I mean, if we could look at it, I mean, I guess because Pudge was always throwing out base runners too, but I mean, to think about, I mean, we know Piazza hit 40 home runs and things like that. Yeah. But the idea for a catcher to go, we've had catchers that hit home runs. We've had catchers, but like for a catcher to have a year where he's hit 20 homers, stolen 20 bases, and thrown out over 20 base runners. That, I mean, there should be like a triple crown for catchers, and that should be it. Yeah. 20 homers, 20 steals, 20 caught stealings, and do it all in the same year. Like, I mean, that was almost like an unofficial catching triple crown to me. Like, that's insane.
And on top of that, he had 5 triples. 5. You're lucky if you get a couple from
I'm a guy that remember when Chooch was young, before like when in the World Series year, Chooch hit like 225, but you didn't give a fuck what Chooch hit, because when you look at the catching position, really what you give a fuck about with catching is how are you handling my pitching staff? Yeah. How do you handle the running game and things like that? You could hit 230 and you could hit me 5 home runs, but if you're the best defensive catcher in baseball, that's all I really give a fuck about. I mean, Greg Maddux used to literally have a guy, Javi Lopez used to hit 40 home runs a year, but Javi Lopez didn't catch Greg Maddux games for the Braves because Greg Maddux wanted a guy that he felt like, the pitcher battery combination, it was just that good. He didn't give a fuck that whoever is, I think Henry Blanco was his catcher, if I remember the name correctly. But, I think so, and then I remember when Greg Maddux signed with the Cubs after he left the Braves, the Cubs also went out and got Henry Blanco because it's like, this is your guy that's your permanent catcher. Like, anytime you pitch, he catches. Because it didn't matter what the guy was doing from a hitting perspective. All you want out of your catcher is a guy that's going to handle your pitching staff in the way that you need it to. It's a plus when he can also hit and do all these other things offensively. So for me, it's like, are you kidding me? This guy threw out 20. I think the number officially was like 24 base runners, right? JT threw out like 24 base runners this year.
Yep.
When you throw out more base runners, when you put it this way, if you hit over 20 home runs, but you still found a way to throw out more base runners than you did hit home runs, that's really crazy. I mean, you hit 21 homers, but you somehow threw out more base runners than you did hit homers. I mean, that I don't like. Has that ever been done before? Like, historically, if you go look at his season as a catcher, I bet you this is one of the most underrated, underappreciated seasons where we've ever seen from the catching position. If you just look at it all the way around.
And then just using the smarts, knowing that he's a guy that throws base stealers out, that should help with him having the knowledge to know when he needs to steal at one time, know the other catcher and their tendencies. He knows that, so he probably used that to his advantage, and that's why.
And I'll tell you what, I umpire all this big. I always talk about all the big time baseball that I umpire down here. Yeah. These catchers that are these elite catchers down here. Like this weekend, I'm umpiring 17. They're like 17-year-olds. A bunch of college scouts will be there, and these big time catchers, they know the good catchers from the bad ones and who to study and all that. Like JT Realmuto and his pop time, he's got the best pop time in baseball for all catchers. And for people that don't understand what that means your pop time is, if a runner's stealing, it's the amount of time between when you receive the ball from the pitcher and you getting it to second base. The amount of total cumulative time from you catching it, the transfer, and the throw to second. And I think he's averaging like 1.7 seconds or something. And I think anything under 2 seconds is considered elite. And he's averaging like 1.7 seconds. And these catchers that are big time catchers that I always umpire for, they talk about it. You'd be like, hey, and if I ask them, hey, to you, who's the best catcher in baseball? Oh, well, my coaches always tell me, JT Realmuto is the guy you want to watch. If you want to look at when you're talking about trying to, if you want to throw out base runners and you want to talk about, controlling the running game and when guys are stealing, that's the guy you want to watch. Like, yeah, because he's got the best pop time in baseball. It's not just one of these things that we're looking at in Philly now. It's nationally becoming one of these things that's recognized with anybody in baseball circles that understand the game. He's really good. And, I understand early on it wasn't what we wanted him to be. But I think, we maybe dogged him a little bit unfairly for a little bit too long because, I mean, big picture, when you just look at what he's been this year, I mean, hell, he's probably worth more money than what we've paid him. And he's got a big contract, but he's probably worth more money than what we've paid him this year. And that's hard for you to say about most of your star players.
Just like I said, Bryce Harper missed 2 months. He carried a lot of that load there. He was the linchpin in that 3-4 spot. You're able to move everybody around, and he allowed guys to see better pitches because you had to focus on him because he was that hot in the lineup. People thought we were going to fall apart when Harper went out because they were like, okay, at the time Harper was hitting 330 and everybody else wasn't hitting well. He gets hurt, and then that's when JT stepped up. Then you saw when he stepped up, you saw Reese step up. Then you saw Al Bone step up with his bat. Of course, Kyle Schwarber was hitting bombs around that June, July range before he cooled down a bit before getting hot again at the end of the season now. Like you saw like a trickle effect with all the hitters at one time. That's why we went on that big stretch. And of course, who was the manager? Like my ending point, who was the manager at that time? Rob Thomsonand. He's the one who took over at that exact time, which was you could say it was a coincidence a little bit, but then at the same time, it's how he handles himself, how he manages the subtle things you don't see because of him not showing too much emotion. But then when things happen, he does show emotion when he comes out to talk to the umpires. He has his players' backs. He lets them do what they do best. And I think that's a big thing, letting them be themselves and just managing behind the scenes. I think the big thing was like they clinched. Usually you see them celebrate and go crazy right away. Everything. No, they waited for him to come in. They wanted to hear him give a speech. And then they busted out the bottles because they respected him that much to give him that time to talk before they went crazy at the clinching. They had so much respect for him. You saw him getting interviewed by Comcast, and you see Kyle Schwarber pop up, and he's like, yeah, that's right, we did it. We did it. And then he doused them with the bottle. And
this team does love each other, don't they? Yeah. Like they really do have like a bond that makes you think they believe they can go win it. And that's part of that monkey off the back that we talked about. Like, and it didn't help that the Mariners, went and clinched the playoffs because, right? Like the Mariners hadn't made the playoffs in over 20 years, the longest drought in baseball. We had the second longest drought. And sometimes it's like
I got to look at who has the longest one now because you just killed a 20-year and a 10-year.
Which is weird, right? Because there's been actually a lot of parity now over the past decade. So it's kind of like there's probably a lot of teams in that mix. But for me, it's like, and you talk about it sometimes. And we went through this in 2007 when we finally made the playoffs. And we talked about this the other day also on the phone. Like, think about, all those years, right? Like Ed Wade, got fired because the team couldn't get over the hump when he was here. But when you look at all those teams, I mean, 99 with Terry Francona, we overachieved. And we're in the playoff race for most of the year. And then Kurt Schilling and Scott Rowland got hurt in like July. And we really just lost a lot of momentum down the stretch. And you weren't really a playoff team anyway. But at the All-Star break, Schilling was an All-Star. Lieberthal was an All-Star. You had multiple All-Stars. And I can remember if you go back and watch that 99 All-Star game at Fenway Park, like they're talking about it. Joe Buck and McCarver are talking about it on live TV. Hey, this is a really good Phillies team. Yeah, it had the potential to be. I mean, Bobby Abreu was like 25 and he was hitting 350, and we had no idea what type of superstar he was about to become. Doug Glanville had his best year, as a pro. It wasn't a bad team.
It's just that they had a lot of homegrown talent they were able to draft.
Right, and they were trying to grow right at the time. Oh,
yeah. And we didn't know how to bring free agents in.
Ed Wade build it, right? 01 Larry Boa gets there, same thing. You overachieve a little bit. 03, Jim Thome gets there, a lot of expectations. That 03, well, people, if any of us remember those teams, the 03 team, the 04 team, and the 05 team, all three of them probably could have and should have made the playoffs if you look at different scenarios, the 03 Phillies team missed the playoffs by 2 games. They had a road trip in like July where they went like 1-10 on an 11-game road trip, or something silly like that, and loses you the playoffs. The 04 team, crazy shit happens from the beginning, even though tons of expectations.
Yeah.
Never in the picture. 05 team, the Astros beat you in the wild card by a game. We went 0-6 against the Astros in 2005. If you win one game, if you go 1-5 against them, you're playing them in a 1-game playoff, for God's sakes. You know, it's just crazy shit. And if you remember that 05 year, not only do you go 0-6 against them, but we talked about it the other day. There was a couple games where you felt like there's some gremlins or something that are really affecting this. Jimmy Rollins in a tie game, a 2-1 game or a 1-1 game in the 8th inning. We were either trying to take the lead or we were trying to tie the game. Hook the ball into the corner as a leadoff man in the 8th inning. It looks like it's going to be at least 2 bases, probably a triple, but he steps over first base and misses the bag, and he stays at first base. He never comes in to score. You lose that game. The very next night, you've got a 2-1 lead or a 3-2 lead in the 9th inning. I think Craig Biggio hit a go-ahead home run in the 9th inning. You lose that game. There was a game in that series where Todd Pratt was catching in a tie game, and the Astros steal 2 bases in the 9th inning. In like a 1-1 game or a tie game, and a guy steals second and a guy steals third, and fuck the Yankees. And a guy steals second and a guy steals third. You lose that game. You just found ways to lose those games in all different ways, it just, you went 0-6 and you found ways to lose it in the craziest of ways, and you missed the playoffs by a game. The very team that you went 0-6 against. So that 07 team finally gets over the hump. And this is where I think we're at here, is like, we felt like this was a long time coming. You felt like you were really close for a lot of years. We had chances down the stretch. We were hot, and Gabe Kapler's first couple years, you were a first place team for a little bit. You just lost momentum down the stretch. Girardi, same thing. Finally, you put it all together, and you finally closed the deal. And now, you look at this roster and you go, are you good enough to win a World Series? You might be. I mean, I don't think this roster – I think the roster is good enough to win a World Series. I don't think they've – outside of like a 2-week stretch during the summer where we won 10 of 11 or something, I don't know if we've ever played well enough this year to think I could say we're good enough to win a World Series. But I think if you look at this roster top to bottom and look at the talent at it and you go, is this team good enough to win a World Series? Yeah. If you click and put everything together at the right time, 100%. And I don't think last year – and the difference is, I wouldn't have said that about last year's team or the team 2 years ago or any of the Kapler teams. But I think you could say that about this team. Yeah. You just got to put it all together and execute perfectly over, a 3-week stretch? That's what the playoffs is all about. I don't know if that's that crazy. I don't think I'm expecting it, but I also know it's not crazy to think it could happen.
We've seen how every year in the playoffs, that wild card team that wins and then gets hot, they always seem to have one of them that makes it to the World Series or comes close. Because when you get hot, you get hot. It doesn't matter if you're the wild card team or say you're a team that is supposed to be good and you get hot. It's just a matter of getting hot at the right time, having the right mix-up and right management. It could happen. I could see it. If we
and this was really the expectation, right? Like when you think about it before the year, if you had to make the playoffs, this was a playoff or bust sort of, attitude. Here you are. It doesn't really matter how you get here. 162 games is a long time. You're going to have your ups and downs, your ebbs and flows. It wasn't necessarily as pretty as we thought it could be or should be or wanted it to be at times, but here you are.
Yep.
The Mets aren't playing well. Let's be honest. The Mets are not playing well at all.
They just
the Padres, even though they're in the playoffs, the Padres have just been very meh for the entire second half.
They clinched,
and especially since the Juan Soto trade, they've just been meh.
Well, and then the Fernando Tatis.
That whole thing, right, it kind of stole some attention from although, again, you know how I feel about cheating. Yeah. Now, see, here's what I'm talking about. Here's the issue, right? This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. The issue isn't that Fernando Tatis cheated. The issue is that he sucks at cheating. How many times do you have to get caught cheating? You suck at cheating. Like, oh my God. For God's sake, this dude sucks at everything. He doesn't know how to do anything that's an extracurricular activity without hurting himself. He doesn't know how to cheat without getting caught.
And then even taking that out of account, if he would have filed the paperwork, he would be back by now because he would have had a lot of that time. Yeah,
can this dude do anything right? You don't like. I like to ride motorcycles in my free time. Yeah, you like to crash motorcycles in your free time and hurt yourself. I'm gonna try to take some sort of supplement to help me be better. Well, so is everybody, except you somehow I remember a long time ago, like 10 years ago in high school, I laughed because fucking Sal Palantonio was on one of the shows and somebody kept just really harping on this idea of steroids and performance enhancing drugs and marijuana and all these different things with the league and failing drug tests. And Sal Palantonio finally had enough. He's like, listen, he's like, okay. He's like, I'll just be completely honest about all this. He's like, and this is the way it works really in all sports. Everybody is doing drugs or taking something in some way, shape, or form. And the only people that get caught are the people that are stupid. He's like, the only way you fail a drug test in professional sports is if you're stupid. He's like, everybody understands what they have to do and how to pass these drug tests and the way that it works and all the different things you can do to make sure that you pass a drug test. They all know how to do it. The only people that get caught are the ones that are reckless or careless or just don't care, they just don't put enough effort into passing the test. He's like, but it's not that hard to pass the test. You just have to put a little bit of effort into it. And some guys are dumber than others, and some guys are smarter than others, and some guys just are better at working the system than others. He's like, that's really just the way it is. He's like, if you think that, he's like, let's be honest. He's like, you think that the only people smoking weed in the NFL are the ones failing drug tests? He's like, of course not. He's like, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to name names. He's like, but the majority of the league, players are smoking weed and doing things like that. He's like, just the difference is the majority of the league isn't stupid enough to fail a drug test. And that's just life. If we're being honest, a lot of us do illegal shit and do shit that we're like, oh, my job wouldn't approve of that. Most of us aren't stupid enough to do it, in a situation where we're going to get caught up in a spot where, I understand that, I can, if I want to go, smoke my nicotine vape at work, I can do that. But I also understand that I can't stand at the register and smoke my nicotine vape. For example, for people that don't know, I work at Chipotle, right? So if I'm going to ring you up at the register at Chipotle, I can't sit there and hit my nicotine vape and blow it out in your face as I'm ringing you up. That'll get me fired. But if I want to go out the back door and take a trash bag out and hit my nicotine vape a few times as I'm outside, nobody cares. Those are the ways that the system works, sort of thing. So I don't give a fuck that Fernando Tatis is trying to find different ways to cheat the system, especially since he struggled to stay healthy. Go ahead. Take whatever steroid or PED you got to take to stay healthy. But for the love of God, I just hate the fact that you're stupid. That's what would make me mad as a teammate. I don't care that you're cheating. I want to punch you in the face because you're this fucking stupid. And then you brought your dad into it. Fuck you. You're a grown-ass man. Yeah, this is what pissed me off with the Ryan Lochte thing back in the day when he got caught drinking with all the fucking Olympic dudes in Brazil and they got into all their trouble out there. I get it. You're all a bunch of Olympic athletes. You went out partying in a foreign country and caught yourself in a position that you probably didn't want to be in. But for the love of God, do not have your mommy try to lie for you. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Lochte brought his mom into it. Oh, and his mom was like, oh, he called me and said this or that. Well, he's a liar. I hate to break it to you. Your son's a liar. Well, Fernando Tatis, okay, whatever. You're a grown man. Why is your dad out here fucking saying, oh, my son did this, my son did that, and then this is what happened, and I think it's unfair? Well, fuck you. I don't give a fuck what you think. Your son's a grown man. What is he, in high school? What are you trying to fucking talk to the principal to keep him from getting suspended? That's bullshit. Now I don't even like the guy. And I liked the kid a year ago. For me, he was one of my favorite young players in baseball. Now I can't stand him because you're a fucking, this is annoying to me. Your dad came out to defend you. Grow up. Go a fucking set and grow up and be a man. This is just ridiculous at this point.
Let's transition over from the Phillies to the Eagles now. Before we do that, how about you tell everybody about becoming an A2D member?
Well, you need to become an A2D member now more than ever with everything going on. Just the Eagles are really good, and then all of our platforms that involve all of our weekly sports betting picks and things like that. It's $9.99 a month. $9.99 a month. Can't beat it. Best package in the business. Become an A2D member. Only $9.99 a month, and the perks include appearances on shows, members only streams, your shout outs, weekly sports picks that I was mentioning from Willie Vegas and the Money Pop podcast. Money Moss, one of the best in the business. $9.99 a month. You're not getting a better package anywhere else. So make sure you get on it and become an A2D member. The Eagles, I mean, what a great time to be a Phillies sports fan, right? Like the Phillies are in the playoffs and the Eagles look like legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And, every week we become more and more impressed with what the Eagles are. They're 4-0 for the first time since 2004. Right? That's Jesus.
They did go into a 14-0 hole early in the game, of course.
And they passed the eye test. Right.
Yes.
It's one thing to be 4-0. It's another thing to pass the eye test. And after coming back against Jacksonville, they passed the eye test.
That's a lot of things that people were saying. They're like, okay, we see Hurts and how he's playing in the first 3 games. How he's going to do when he has to come from behind and win the game. That's what we did. Down 14-0. Come in. We actually had a 4th down that we converted on, and then we went and scored a touchdown right away. It was paramount that we got that touchdown because had they gotten the ball and scored, it could have been 17-0 or 21-0, and that would have been even more. But no, they come down.
Hold on, Daniel, real quick. This update on the Phillies game is typical Phillies fashion. We go and win against the Astros and clinch a playoff spot yesterday, and now we're getting no hit through 8 innings tonight. So that's come on. Yeah. That's just come on. That perfect.
Yeah. Big figures. But Hurts gets that clutch touchdown run to make it 14-7, and then we just rolled from there. A team in the Jaguars. You can say what you want about the Jags being a losing team or not. They're under Doug Peterson. They're coached very well this year. They're still 2-2. They were only giving up 50 yards rushing per game up until that point. We ran for over 200 yards on them. And one of the reasons that we did that, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is seeming to take care of the ball. He didn't fumble it even in the rain like it did. I'm
still not giving him an extension.
No. You had the Jaguars who were fumbling left and right. He held on to the ball. He did what he had to do. He's doing a tremendous job right now carrying the running game right now. I love the fact that we elevated Trey Sermon. He had a couple of good runs in that game in the spot of Boston Scott. I said when we picked him up, I give him a couple of weeks to learn the offense. I'd rather see him than Boston Scott in this lineup. I'd rather have a running back trio of Sanders, Sermon, and Gainwell. I'd rather have that because Sermon is that bruiser, change your pace back that can also run by you at the same time. Yeah, I don't need Sanders and then 2 pass catching backs. I want 3 different backs that are their own style runner. They present different ways of running the ball, and that's what all 3 of these guys do. I thought this was a more complete running game and the Eagles, even though, of course, the left side of the line went out. Of course, Mulata got hurt. Siamatu got hurt. We still ran the ball for over 200 yards. It was the next man up mentality. Hopefully, it's not long term. They're saying maybe they come back this week. Maybe they just miss a week. But I felt like our line did a great job. This talks that if Siamatu doesn't get cleared to play this week, that you can have Cam Jurgens start at left guard right there. He had time at center, and then he's played at left guard before as well. He's kind of a swing guy, so you could get a little bit of youth there. and a little bit of bruising there. I just love that. And then what did we say about Hassan Reddick on defense? He needs to rush the quarterback and not drop in the zone as much.
Yeah.
These last 2 weeks of Hassan Reddick have been insane.
He's getting after it.
He's getting after it. He leads the league in forced fumbles. You got the secondary that were getting torched early. They played a lot better. Slay was out of the game for a while. We were already missing Avonte Maddox. And with how good we were getting to the quarterback, it didn't really matter who we already had back there because we were getting so much pressure on the quarterback. We were forcing Trevor Lawrence to throw the ball sooner or too late, so he wasn't getting the throws down. They couldn't run us as good. It just felt like after 14-0 being down, something clicked with the team, and they just went balls to the wall into the fourth quarter. And thank God we scored points in the second half. That's something. That's a good thing. You know, it does suck that Jake Elliott did get hurt. We don't know what the status of him is going into Sunday's game against Arizona. Hopefully he'll be ready.
We signed a kicker with the last name of Dicker. I love this.
Oh my God.
What's his name? Cameron Dicker?
Okay.
That's his name, I think. Seriously, I think we signed a kicker. His name is Cameron Dicker.
Okay, I see him. He's out of Texas. Usually he's 22. Okay, usually Texas kickers are good, are very good coming out. Of course, he's a rookie. He's from Hong Kong, so that's where he was born. You know, so keep fun. That. So right now he's on like the practice squad. He'll probably be elevated depending on if they need him and Elliott can't play. Hopefully he can hit long field goals. But we're 4-0. What were your takes on the game against the Jags?
What's that? The game against the Jags?
Yeah, what are your takes on that game?
Well, I mean, I was umpiring, so I couldn't watch it live, but I also have the NFL Network now, so I'm able to go back and watch all these things afterwards to be able to kind of get an idea of at least what I'm able to, what I'm watching, as opposed to just hearing it or seeing bits and pieces of it. People will call it a trap game. I can't stand that term, and the older I get, and the more I'm around football, the more I think I'm like, there's no such thing. There might be a trap game when you're in high school, and you know what I mean? Like, you're like the best team in the county and you're playing one of the worst teams. Like, that might be a thing, but I think in professional sports, a trap game is not really a thing. So I didn't like that term. I mean, there was going to be a lot of emotion, regardless with the Doug Peterson thing, but Jacksonville's better than what they've been, but we're a better team, and we should have won the game. We did win the game, and it just seems like every week you start to look better and better and better, especially offensively. It just seems like you become more and more polished. And right now there's very little to complain about, and there's just a lot to be happy about. And it's like hard kind of because like we're not used to that, right? Like we always feel like there's something to really be bitching about, but it's the first 4-0 start for us in 18 years. That tells you everything you need to know. 18. I'll tell you what, that 2017 year kind of came out of nowhere. This team, there does feel like there's a little bit of, those Andy Reid teams early on, once they started figuring out how good they were, and that swag that started to come with it, where they realized, hey, like, we're that good. This team's starting to feel that way about themselves a little bit.
I just I love the play. I love the play from Bradbury when Slay went out. Bradbury made some clutch plays in the secondary. It was like, okay, It was like, that's why we brought him in. That's why, because we could trust him to play opposite Slay. But then Slay went out, so then they had Bradbury. And then one guy we were not talking about, I believe, who played the opposite side was McPherson. I think McPherson played when Slay went out. One thing that you like to hear is not to hear much talk about a guy like that who doesn't play that much, other than on the special teams. He's one of the special teams aces. We drafted him to be an outside corner. Of course, he struggled his rookie year, but he came in there and he played a good job covering in that second half in place of Slay. I'm not saying he played the best, but I'm saying he played good enough to do what he needed to do to limit the wide receivers on the Jags. And that's a good sign. You want to see that depth to start to form. You got, of course, Slay, got Bradbury, Maddox mixed the game. That's why McPherson had a lot more playing time. You saw him step up, which is good. So right there, you got 4 guys you can kind of be like in the second in the corner spots that you can be like, okay, these guys can play. Like, if one guy goes down, at least you know that McPherson can come in and just hold his ground for a while until the guy comes back to fill his spot back in. And I'd like to see that. That's where you're seeing where these draft picks are panning out instead of just the free agents. Your draft picks are panning out. You look, we didn't expect Jalen Hurts to be the guy that he is right now.
I didn't expect him to look like Steve McNair. No,
Yeah,
and you know what? Like, people are throwing out all these comparisons right now, and I'll be the guy because I was critical of him, and I've said, and that is what I've said from the beginning. And let's just go through the timeline here a little bit. I said, I never said I didn't think he could be a franchise quarterback, but I said he's a project. When we first drafted, I said he's a project, and it's going to take some time. And if he ever becomes a franchise quarterback, it'll take a few years. And when we first drafted him, and even going into last year, I was like, right now he looks like, Tyrod Taylor, if Tyrod Taylor and like Russell Wilson had a love child, like this is what he would be, sort of thing, right? Like somewhere in the middle of those 2 guys. And then all of a sudden, now, people want to throw around Donovan comparisons. I wasn't a huge Donovan had things about him that made you go, love it. Other things about him that, depending on who you were, frustrated him. Yeah. Jalen's an all business sort of guy, and Donovan was a little bit more of like a let's have fun and enjoy this sort of guy. The air guitar and the different things like that he would do, and the Michael Jackson dances and things. But I really, really like the Steve McNair comparison with Jalen Hurts right now. Especially when you talk about like development, because we kept talking about development with Jalen. Well, you want to talk about development. Steve McNair was a guy that went from, he was consistently, good, but not great. Well, okay. Great. What does that mean? Donovan was consistent. Okay. What? Okay.
Probably with his play and how he was.
Great. And we dealt with this, this is not a time to sit here and let's start the who hates Donovan and who loves Donovan debate. Like, that goes on plenty in this. I'm not a Donovan hater. Trust me, I'm not. I like Donovan. Donovan was a big part of my childhood, but I'm not blind to everything that, what held us back and the reasons we didn't win and the things that, as great as we were, why we could have been better if Donovan was a little bit different in certain areas, sort of thing. I'm very fair with Donovan. I don't want to start that fucking petty shit right now. It's stupid. But I just don't like the Jalen Hurts, Donovan McNabb comparison. I think, first of all, it's lazy because I think it's like, oh, well, Donovan played here. Okay, so it's easy that they're not the same player. They're not anything close. Like, outside of the fact that I guess they're black and they're both full threat quarterbacks. It's silly. They're different personalities. They're different types of leaders. Yeah. First of all, the biggest issue with Donovan was that, not that he was a bad leader, but he was just never a good leader. And it's the complete opposite with Jalen. Jalen is the guy that you want to lead you into war every single time, no matter who I'm going to war against. Jalen Hurts is the guy I want leading me into war. Yes, thank you. It's a lazy comparison, right? Jalen, I want him to lead me into war, and there's just a different, Donovan never gave me the idea of, hey, jump on my back, boys. I'll take, let's go. Jalen gives you the complete idea of, hey, boys, I can I can squat 600 pounds. I can leg press 600 pounds. Jump on my back and let's go. I got you. I can carry us all the way there. It's okay. I'm made for this. It's a different attitude. And Steve McNair gave me that. Like if anybody knows Steve McNair's story, the old story about him being at Alcorn State, and to this day, Steve McNair's brother Fred is the coach there. That's a little fun tidbit. But there's a guy that lives down here in Lakeland that coaches football to the high school kids that's an Alcorn State graduate and played for Fred McNair, and I talk with him constantly. He talks about it all the time. But the folk tales and like the legends that go around at Alcorn State still about the McNair brothers. The story about Steve McNair was covered in his football life, where he walked into the weight room and they were talking about like lifting weights, and he was like, fuck all that. And the weight trainer was like, okay, if you can bench press like 350 pounds, like 20 times straight or something like that, I'll just let you not you can just do your own thing from a weight training perspective. You don't have to follow, our guidelines. And like Steve McNair, like not only did 25, he did 50 of them and like bench, just put it out like it was nothing, crazy shit like that where you're like, this dude's just a freak of nature. And then remember early in McNair always thought his career was the guy that like 3rd and 5, and you need him to go lower his shoulder to a linebacker and drive for an extra yard and a half to get you the first down of the touchdown, and he would do it. Well, that's what Jalen's doing right now. We even saw it in this game. That's how he got the touchdown when they went for it on 4th down. He had the guy that was open over the middle that came on the crossing route, but he didn't. He could have thrown it for him for the touchdown, I guess, but he trusts his legs and his ability to. I need 5 yards. I'll get a 6, and I think it's. If I could say, if that was like at the end of Jalen Hurts' career, you said the closest thing you could compare him to is Steve McNair, would you be happy with that? Oh my God, I'd be thrilled with that. I'd be thrilled with it. You know what I'm saying? That guy's a borderline Hall of Famer, and he took the Titans to a Super Bowl, and they won a ton of games.
He was on the Manning cast last night, and they were asking him questions. He was kind of
who McNair was? See, I didn't see that. Why didn't I? Damn it! I gotta watch the Manning cast more. Oh, Jalen was. I did see Jalen was on it. I did see that. I saw that.
They had him on there. He was very nonchalant. You could tell he played for Alabama and for Oklahoma without he answered questions. He didn't really answer them.
Yeah, he didn't have none of that. I did see that. Yeah,
he wasn't giving up too much, but he is very well spoken, very well mannered. Like he has respect for the guys, and he just knows how to bring himself up. He knows how to speak to people, and he knows how to control the room by his actions with the Eagles. And how
see the complete difference between him and Donovan there, right? Because Donovan would have found a way to play air guitar at some point on the Manning cast. You know what I'm saying? Like there's the difference, right? Donovan would have been yucking it up with people having a good time, and Jalen's just all business. I like that.
Yeah. We got Evan Taylor. Yo, guys, what's going on?
Yo, guys, what is this? The Goonies? Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys didn't watch it. Guessing he's very stoic. No, that's the perfect word. Stoic. That's how he was. He was very.
I love it about him.
Yeah. He's just doing the great job, and it's crazy how we got him and how he's become a star by. I'm not gonna say by accident.
It all seems genuine, does it not? Like it just all seems very. This is just who he is.
Yeah. And it's just like everything that's developed, like, oh, we drafted him. It was the wrong move because we had Wentz. Then we kind of backdoored ourselves into having Hurts as the starter. And now he's doing this. Wentz is struggling. Hurts is playing great. And
we got backdoored. That's usually not a good thing, Daniel. But in this situation, I think we're happy we got backdoored.
This is the one time. And if you look at the whole offense, we drafted everybody on the offense but one player, and that is A.J. Brown. I'm trying to keep a straight face right now. It's A.J. Brown, but we used the first-round pick to trade for him. So I just want to say that we used a draft pick on him. Like we drafted Smith. We traded one pick for Brown. We drafted Sanders. We drafted Hurts. We drafted Lane Johnson. We drafted one of the best late picks, Jordan Mailata. Siumatu we drafted in the 4th round. We got, of course, Jason Kelsey, the ageless wonder. We got him in the 5th or 6th round. And then
he's gonna be a Hall of Famer.
He's playing great right there.
Think about the center. Look in the Hall of Fame at the amount of centers in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And look
that's
at
going to be an
what
underrated story by the end of all this. Guy played in Philly his whole career, and it's going to be one of like a handful of centers in the Hall of Fame.
And just like you said, our whole O-line we drafted, which is great. It's like, we've talked about how Rose's been doing a bad job drafting up until a certain point. He's pulled like a 180, like a 180 with how he's drafting. You got that. We got our defense. We put money into
and we're gonna
our
have a
defense.
top 5 pick again. We're gonna have a top 5 pick from the Saints, which who knows how good that. I mean, who knows where that could go? I mean, that could be. I mean, next thing you know, that could turn into the top pick in the draft for all we know. I mean, who really knows where that goes? But holy shit! Right now, I think it's on pace to be the 3rd overall pick.
But you look into that, it's like with how Jalen Hurts.
Where do you go with that? What do you do with the 3rd overall pick?
What if Jalen Hurts plays great and then he wants money? You got that top 3 pick that you would think, okay, maybe.
But you have very few holes. So what do you do with it? It's like almost like now you're in a spot where like most teams with the 3rd overall pick are like, man, we got a lot of holes. We could, man, we have a guy like, what do? You're just going to draft the best player available, I guess. That's not the best player. That's not a quarterback, I guess.
Yeah. Because how do you draft Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing that. I mean, first of all, let's be honest. Bryce Young and Jalen Hurts are the same player.
You're just going younger with that than C.J. Stroud.
That conversation's already. That was we were hoping. Okay, if we get a top 5 pick, great quarterback class. Okay, not worried about that now. Good. So where do you go from? I mean, am I going offensive line? I mean, I don't. I mean, it seems like a Howie move where he'd go somewhere like in the trenches, but I don't like. What do you? I mean, that it's you almost have options where you can be like, maybe I should dangle that 3rd overall pick and just see. Maybe I can get 2 or 3 more 1st round picks out of this. Like. Which is a total Howie Roseman thing that you do.
Yeah, because you can move back and gain more.
Next thing you know, we've got like 4 first-round picks because we're picking like 4 times after like the 15th pick in the draft or something crazy. You know what I mean?
Which is smart because you got to think about the fact that you're going to have to pay Hurts. And you're going to have a year where he'll only be $1 million. And then say you sign him, like we said, say you sign him to $200 million, 5 years, $40 million. That's a $35 to $39 million price jump. That means that's more money than you have right now. So you got to kind of make it up with some of the guys that you have on here. So you kind of have
one place I would look if there's like a Joey Bosa type of edge rusher or something in the draft. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah,
that's the one place where it's like, give me an elite edge rusher that's going to get me like double-digit sacks every year. That's the one place I'll look.
You got to think right now. Maybe this is Jason Kelsey's last year, but we already drafted his hair and Cam Jurgens. I feel like maybe like you look at right guard. That's a spot that I feel like maybe we need to look at. Right there, or I think Brandon Graham, he could retire after this year.
That's an edge rusher, right? That's just an edge rusher. Yeah, that elite edge rusher is the one thing.
Yeah, I feel like defensive tackle. Even though we got 2 guys leaving, we had 3 guys, young guys there. We drafted Jordan Davis. I feel like we can address that later.
You're not taking a linebacker with a top 5 pick, unless there's an elite, like Jalen Ramsey type defensive back. You're not taking that, and especially even more so with what we've got. So edge rusher becomes the one spot defensively, I guess, and then offensively. There's not a real – I don't think there's a running back that you would take there. So I guess, offensive line somewhere. But, yeah, I like this idea most from Daryl is somebody's going to be desperate for a quarterback and somebody's going to really, really want to overpay to trade up to that spot to get their quarterback. And Howie Roseman, that's where he's best. He'll fleece the shit out of you. Oh, what are you going to give me for that pick? Okay. Yeah. Oh, you want to give me 2 first-round picks? I better get 3 and like another like 2 mid-round picks or something. And next thing you know, they're that desperate, and you get 3 first-round picks, a 4th and a 5th, and wow, like there we go. Now you're just assets, more and more assets.
Isn't it kind of ironic that one of the teams right away that I think of that needs one is the Saints, and we're the ones who have their pick? So isn't that kind of ironic? Like, hey, they could have drafted one last year, but they didn't.
Bad organizations, do bad. The Saints have like when you look at the Saints, that was always their issue, right? Like if they it seemed like they got old and they were never able to develop young talent to be able to keep what they had early on during that Peyton thing going. By the time like 2012 came around, you just get older and older and older. I mean, Michael Thomas was a hit, but outside of Michael Thomas, like who'd they draft? Like where? Like they didn't draft any playmakers. Like everything was a bust for them. Mark Ingram was a good pick, I guess.
Well, Kamara, Olave.
I mean, that's not Ingram. Yeah, Kamara. Kamara was a good pick. Yeah, that's what I meant. Kamara.
But right now it's their line play is shaky. They have no quarterback right now. Right now,
they've had so many opportunities to draft and develop talent in areas where they just didn't.
I felt like they held on to Drew Brees too long, which I get why. The feel good's noted, but they held on to him too long. Like he said, they released Ian Book from the Saints quarterback room. And he's the guy that they had drafted. I think.
What's Ian Book doing now? Coaching high school football? I mean, what the hell does that have to do with anything?
Last year, he was on the Eagles practice squad.
Oh, he's on a practice squad. Good. I mean, again, he's probably coaching high school football somewhere until another practice squad gives him a call.
But it's bad when your starting quarterback right now is Andy Dalton. That's who the Saints are starting right now.
I mean,
because
I told you it was bad when they had Jameis Winston coming into the year. I don't know what it is. I don't like why. Like I didn't think. I get it. He's fun. I like Jameis. To me, Jameis Winston's the guy I want to have. Like he's invited to. Like you guys are on the party list. Like Jameis Winston is always on the party list. This dude can entertain the shit out of a fucking party crowd. But like, I mean, hell, I mean, we all know the crab legs thing, which is fine. I mean, that was all overblown. That was funny, but like, hell, after he got surgery this offseason and he's fucking in training camp, he's like, oh, we all remember that song where like the knee bone's connected to the hip bone and the hip bone, it's all connected, right? My shoulders are connected to my neck, which is connected to my back, which is connected. And you're like, and the people that are there, like the media that's covered in this shit is just laughing. They're just like, this guy, like, he's a fucking journalist dream. Like he's always going to give you a story. But why does he's just I don't know. Why? Wait, in a national championship, how long do you have to watch this guy struggle at the NFL level before you realize? There's worse options at quarterback, but this guy's never he's not a franchise quarterback. He never will be. He never was. It's not going to happen. Like I don't understand it. Like the guy's not good.
By the way, Ian Book is the third string quarterback for the Eagles right now. So
that's one of the best positions in football because you're never going to play. I'm not going to see the field. You're paying me to be your third string quarterback. And if you're Ian Book, he went to Notre Dame, did he not? He's a Notre Dame grad. He's a smart kid. He's setting up his post football career. He is. He's like, okay, in 3 years we're going to see him on Nick Saban's Alabama staff or something. Watch.
Yeah. He's got that scout team going because of course you got Hurts. You got a game plan for him somehow.
Hey, here you go. You can book it in a couple years. He's going to be on the LSU coaching staff with Brian Kelly. Okay, I'll see myself out. Go ahead, you can take it on. I'll be quiet for a couple minutes. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to be a dad in December, so I had to throw a dad joke in there.
So moving forward right now, of course, they got the Arizona Cardinals. If there was, like I said, we've talked about this. If there was a trap game, I feel like this would be the one. With the following week, we got Sunday night against the Cowboys. We got people looking ahead to that one. It's hard to not look ahead and see that we got our division rivals, the team that we hate, Sunday night at the Link. But we're going away.
Again, no such thing as a trap game, but you're not going to go undefeated either. So I get what you're saying. This is a good spot for us to lose a game. Yeah. Easy spot for you to look at and go, yeah, I could see us losing this game.
Yeah, I feel like the goal with the game is to just get the running game going early, try and get the ball first if you can, play great defense, get to the quarterback. You got Kyler Murray. This is a game where TJ Edwards needs to make sure that he's on point because you can't let Murray get into the second line of the defense. Is Hopkins back?
I think Hopkins is back, right? Wasn't Hopkins only suspended for the first 4 weeks?
6.
I thought they appealed it and it got reduced to 4.
Nope. Didn't get it. I think it was 8 and then it got reduced to 6, but
that's what it was.
Yeah, so he's still out, of course. You gotta watch out. Even with that, you gotta watch out for him rolling to the outside and try and create plays with his speed. That's where that's where it's gonna come into the play. Just containing him in the box. Don't just try and rush in there. Try and get him, but make sure he doesn't get to the outside of you.
And this, you make a good point about trying to get outside, because J.J. Watt, I guess, isn't the guy he was when he was winning Defensive Player of the Year awards, but he's still J.J. Watt, and it's like this idea, we could just go run a read option. Jalen Hurts gets smacked in the mouth real quick by J.J. Watt. All of a sudden that happens, and the Cardinals could, they could control the game there a little bit and kind of slow you down, at the point of attack there. If you want to run the ball and try to, do what we did this past week and run for over 200 yards, all of a sudden you don't have the same success. And, I like us to be favored in every game this year because we're that good, but you're not going to go undefeated. You're going to lose a game, and this is a good spot for us to go lose a game. It really is.
And Anderson is good at the defensive front, creating pressure, bad down balls. T.J. Watt had a couple of them. One of his led to a touchdown by one of his other linemen because he deflected it into his teammate's hands and scored it. So make sure you run the ball. You get to the outsides. I feel like our wide receivers are going to be key. Even Dallas Goedert. I feel like Dallas Goedert's a nice mismatch. And Zach Ertz is playing good. That's another little fun thing in this game. It's Zach Ertz's first game against his former team. It's kind of like boom, boom, boom that we've had this year with some of these.
Somebody had a meme of the revenge tour, right? Like it started with week 2 or something.
No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was Wentz. This past week it was Dougie P, and now it's Ertz. Zach Ertz.
Yeah. Well, wasn't the one before Wentz though? Wasn't there a former teammate or something before that? That was on a former Eagle that was in one of the first 2 games.
We had Deuce Staley, who was a coach.
That's what it was. Deuce Staley. That's what it was. Right there. Deuce Staley. That's what the Lions staff. That's what it was. That's the meme I saw. Deuce Staley, then Carson Wentz. And then it just keeps going and going and going, right? Yeah, this past week, now you got Zach.
You know what? I just thought of
Rager. That's what it was. No, that's what it was. Right. It was Staley. It was Rager. It was Carson Wentz. Now you're going to have, now Zach Ertz, right? So it's like this revenge story people were talking about. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. Staley, Rager, and then Wentz. Yeah.
I'm still going to go the Eagles win because I feel like they're not going to drop that much. I saw Arizona play Carolina, and they had a lot of holes in that line. Carolina was able to get to, of course, Kyler Murray. Carolina's secondary has a lot of issues. As long as we're healthy, as long as everybody plays, I feel like we're good. I still feel like it's going to be maybe a 24-17 game because I still feel like it's going to be a touchdown type game. I thought this was going to be closer than where it was just because the defense that the Jags have, and Arizona has a good offense. Even without Hopkins there, Murray can make plays with his feet. He has Ertz. He has Marquise.
Yeah, and they're kind of in a little bit of a must-win spot.
Yeah. So they're going to come out and try and get going there. Just like I said, they could catch us early if we were not into the game right away. But I still feel like we're going to get the win. And we had a lot of crazy games on week 4. Of course, the big one to start out with is the 27-15 win by the Bengals over the Dolphins. The Dolphins get the first loss. You had the whole Tua thing. we could go into that, but that would go into like a 1 hour, a nosedive of just talking about that, about everything wrong with what the Dolphins did. I'm not going to do that because then we'd be here to like 12:30, 1 o'clock talking about that. There was no reason he should be playing.
That whole thing is just weird.
Yeah, it's so much.
Really weird.
Yeah, especially since they came out and said it was a back injury first and not the concussion. That's why he was playing. He came back, played. Came into this game when he shouldn't have been playing to begin with, because any talk of CTE or concussions, you just sit your guy out. That's why they fired their doctor. They fired the guy that looked at him. There's a lot of talks with that department there, but the Bengals won that game. The Vikings won on a double doink in London. 28-25. Looking Kenny Pickett, they lost 24-20 to the Jets, but Kenny Pickett is officially the starter now. I remember I had this talk with you where I felt like he should have started from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, what was the point of I don't even understand what the hell the point of this was. And I'll just take a little bit of some shots because I've obviously. At this point, I'm not going to have from it. I've been very open about how much I've liked Kenny Pickett since last year, right? Last year. And, I mean, people, he threw 3 picks. Yeah, he was 10 of 13 for 120 yards. 3 picks. Touchdown. But I mean, young quarterbacks, they're going to throw some picks and things, especially ones that understand that they can make NFL throws. He can make the back shoulder throws and all these different windows that you need to fit balls in the NFL quarterbacks. He can do that. So I expect things like this early on. But if you go 10 of 13 for 120 yards, coming off the bench in the NFL debut, I mean, he's going to be just fine. This kid will be just fine at the NFL level. He's going to have plenty of success, and he's going to win plenty of games. And, listen, this is why I wanted him to start the year as the starter, because now you're in a spot where they've really – I mean, I guess good luck. Hey, might as well throw the kid into the fire right away. Be like, hey, it is what it is. But they've got the Bills, the Dolphins, the Eagles, and that's his first 4 starts. The Bills. Then he plays somebody else that's really good. Then they play the Dolphins, then they play them. So, that's his 4 starts here now in the next 4 weeks. His first 4 starts as an NFL quarterback. I mean, geez, I think it might be the Ravens or the other team, but still, it's just like, that none of those are easy matchups. The Steelers have a bad offensive line. They've got some offensive weapons, but they're just, nothing elite. The defense is good, but not great. And it's just all these things where it's like, okay, you're going to find out what the kid's made of, and there's going to be some growing pains there, and there'll be some mistakes. But I think big picture, Pittsburgh is going to come out of that feeling very, very good about what the quarterback situation is. People are hitting on the kid on the right, whatever. Tell me this. All these people are saying, he's the quarterback in this guy. Who's better right now? Malik Willis? I mean, the Titans stink. Willis, I think he might be good, but
I think he's going to be good. But
now.
You got to build that team around him, kind of like what Jackson.
If you just look at all the quarterbacks that were coming out this year, right now, I don't think there's any. It's not even close. Like Kenny Pickett's the most NFL-ready quarterback. Like he's ready to step into that offense and be whatever he's ready to be. Like he's better than what Mitchell Trubisky already is. Better than whatever the Mason Rudolph could be for them. Like by far the guys. I think I was pretty spot on. Now I don't know if any. And we said, hey. We weren't really a fan of any of this quarterback class this year. We don't know if any of them are going to be any good, but I think it's safe to say right now Kenny Pickett's by far the best of all the rookie quarterbacks that have come out. Now, might not be saying much, but I just he looks like the most NFL ready of all the quarterbacks.
I think he'll be able to work with those young talent like him and George Pickens and Freiermuth.
If you're Pittsburgh, you're a playoff team, but you're probably happy with where your rebuild process is. You're like, okay.
I feel like what they need. I feel like now moving forward, they need to work on the line.
Sure, of course, that's where it's all going to start. First of all, the number one example of that is Cincinnati, because it don't matter how special your quarterback talent is. If your offensive line is garbage, Joe Burrow's going to get snapped around and turn the ball over and everything else because that's just the way it works when your offensive line can't you worth a damn. So, prime example number one of that. But you
got the Bills who beat the Ravens 23-20. They came back from a 2-touchdown lead. The Ravens should have went, and I believe they were supposed to kick a field goal, but they chose not to. The ball went to the Bills. They came back and won that game. It was a J.K. Dobbins first game back coming in. He did good, but they just didn't play well down the stretch. That's the second game that the Ravens have blown a lead in the second half and lost the game. We know week 2 was when they lost to the Dolphins. You had the Packers who beat the Patriots by the last second field goal in overtime. The Patriots are down to Zach as their quarterback.
The Packers are not good. I mean, the Packers are just bad.
Rodgers is even playing well, and Lazard is making plays. I feel like they need to be running the ball like 40 times.
Cost me money in the first half of that game, fucking asshole.
The best player is Aaron Jones, and the second best player is Dillon, AJ Dillon. They need to run the ball a lot, and then play action pass if they want to get the passing game in. But they're lucky enough to be 3-1 right now. Then you had Sunday night, the Chiefs just beat up on the Bucs 41-31. Of course, the Chiefs, they're not the same team without Hill, but they're finding ways to spread the ball around to other guys. He's the guy that's
how about the news that just broke? Speaking of the Bucs, I mean, this is going to be more fun than anything that might happen with anything like with football this year. Might be the development of this Tom Brady Gisele Bundchen divorce story that all of a sudden is broke in the New York Post and from People magazine and all of a sudden a bunch of different sources. But holy shit, you want to talk about expensive divorces? We thought the Tiger Woods and Ava Monaghan fucking divorce was expensive. Wait till Tom Brady and Gisele Bundchen divorce. I mean, this shit's gonna be wild. And
you have to feel like it's going to affect his play.
Sure. How could it not?
The
dude's got a whole brand. This dude's worth close to $1 billion. And Gisele Bundchen is not like, here's what's different about the Tiger Woods thing. Is Eva Monaghan was just some like Swedish swimsuit model that was like being a housekeeper for professional bathrooms for her and Tiger started hooking up. Like literally everything that you weren't shit without Tiger. Gisele Bundchen's like, hey, bitch, when you won the fucking Super Bowl in Austria, the newspaper said Giselle's husband wins Super Bowl. That's how much of a not big deal you are in my home country. So I've got plenty of my own money, and you want to talk about the brand that you know, I've got my own fucking brand. I ain't worried about your money, but I might just stick it to you just because I feel like saying fuck you. And you want to talk about expensive divorces, the two of them combined with a lot of fucking money? Oh, that's just going to get ugly in court. That shit will be wild. And cameras are going to be everywhere. That's going to be like the biggest paparazzi story you've seen in a long time. Oh, I'm here for it. I'm here for a good one. I love that. I'm here for a good drama. I'm here for it. I love it. And we all know, like Brady, let's be honest, Tom Brady, and not that I care because, again, cheating to me, it's like, that's what greats do. Every great player in any sport is cheated in some way. But we all know there's some skeletons in the closet there for Tom Brady. And I'm here for Gisele Bundchen exposing them in court. Like, I really am. Yeah. Like, this is going to be like a professional sports version of what happened with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard shit. Like, we're going to hear about all types of shit. Like, him fucking bumping lines of coke off of strippers' asses and shit. Like, watch. I'm telling you, this shit's going to get wild. Like, we're going to hear shit about Tom Brady we never would have expected.
Again, the last game was last night. You had the Niners beat the Rams 24-9. Talking about eating for one day for somebody to eat crow. I'm sure you ate a little bit of crow last night after how well Jimmy Garoppolo played last night compared to last week.
No,
he had a great.
this is the story of Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, he'll play well like he did last night, and then he'll play like he did last week. So, if that's the case, I mean, it is what it is. You're going to take the good with the bad, but it's just frustrating. It's just you're never going to win anything consistently unless people back out. But that's what I got to run with. And I'll tell you what. When everything's clicking with them, you don't want to play them. You know what I mean? Like
when
again,
run the ball,
we talked about Kyle Shanahan together, but Kyle Shanahan took Sean McVay's lunch money again. Why? Why is it every time they face each other, Kyle Shanahan takes Sean McVay's lunch money? Like, at some point, is Sean McVay going to be able to finally stand up for himself and not get his lunch money taken? But holy shit, every single time.
The one time that he did, they won the Super Bowl last year.
And I don't even know. I still think Shanahan outcoached him in that game. There was just certain things that happened where the Rams still won. But I mean, if I remember that game correctly, I don't know if either guy coached a good game. But Sean McVay definitely didn't outcoach Kyle Shanahan in that game. It seems like every time they get together, Kyle Shanahan outcoaches one somewhere or another.
I think it's evident the Niners' number one game plan is to get the ball to Deebo Samuel in space. You saw it last night. He would get the ball, and his yards after catch was just amazing. How he would just break away from guys. You can put him in the backfield. You can line him up in the slot. You can line him up in the outside. He's just a threat from any position on the field. That's why there's a lot of talk about him going into this season. He's that Swiss Army knife, and that's the thing that you saw Mike Daniels in Miami. Why he wanted to get Tyreek Hill and pay him all that money to come to Miami, because he's the same type of guy. You can line him up, put him in different positions. He's just going to blow past guys at the catch, and he's that special guy. And I think Deebo Samuel of that same realm as Tyreek Hill. Not as fast, but he's almost to that level of speed, and he can catch the ball from any spot.
If they don't have Deebo Samuel, they're not able to win as many football games as they do. That's like he becomes the equalizer because you just get, like you said, get the ball in his hand. That's all you really have to do. Like, he's running the ball, he's taking pitches out of the backfield, like he's running back, go catch the ball downfield. But really, all you're trying to do is, get him in space, right? If it's 5 yards down the field, you don't care. Now the ball's in his hands, and he's going to get enough yards, after the catch in a situation like that where it's going to be a productive run. Yeah, that was the issue the first couple weeks. Wasn't efficient the way they needed to be. The last night, you look at the Deebo Samuel you expect it to be. And, the touchdown catch on the screen pass. How many tackles does he break? The moves he can make in open space in the open field. It's just a special player. It's, it's a weapon that, most teams wish they had and they don't. And, we're in a really good spot. As you look around the NFC, I mean, nobody's really good. I mean, we're by far, I think, right now the best team in the NFC.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. And now that might change come week 12, but right now, nobody's figured anything out the way we have it figured out. The Rams stink. Their offense looks bad. I mean, bad. And Sean McVay. I've always said I thought McVay was overrated as a coach. Might be catching up to him finally a little bit.
John Hamm
not playing well. Malcolm Stafford looked healthy.
Well, John Hamm said the perfect thing last year. I mean, not last night. He was like, you bring in a guy like Allen Robinson, and how many targets does he have? They throw it so many times to Cooper Kupp. You look last year. I think the difference last year was the fact that you brought in.
That's the other issue.
You brought in Odell Beckham Jr., and he was very dynamic, and he made other teams play him and game plan for him, and it helped out Cooper Kupp, and because of that, it helped out the running game. And that running game's not getting going. It's not existing right now. You can throw it to Cooper Kupp. They can make some plays, but there are just too many stall drives. They're getting behind. And then their defense has to be in the field. Their defense is still playing good. It's just that they're on the field so much they get tired, and they give timely, long plays at times, or a lot on catches that run for touchdowns because they shouldn't be on the field that long. And until they fix things, there's a chance that the defending teams might not even make the playoffs if they keep going. Because right now, even with the loss to the Broncos, I like how the Niners are playing. If their question's always going to be the play of Jimmy G, that's always going to be the play. But as long as he gets the ball to Deebo Samuels, he'll be able to kind of minimize a little of that. And yet you got more weapons from the Niners right now. I feel like offense and defense. You got you thought that 3 teams could possibly get in from the West. There might only be one now. You might have to have the Rams sneak in the wild card. You got of course, the NFC East has 3 teams that are one loss or less. And the Giants.
And what's weird about that is the Giants really aren't good, and the Cowboys really aren't good.
Yeah.
Being the spots where.
But it's the Wild West. Anything goes, and we're almost a fourth of the way there, and things look good for the Eagles. But before we wrap things up, we were supposed to talk about college football, but we'll get into that more next week. We went a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, at this point, I don't even know what I'm saying, which is weird about it. How about if we keep it a little bit? Do you feel like right now the Niners are our biggest threat in the NFC?
I think maybe so, because
if they put everything together.
Yes, defense. They got an offensive line. They got the wide receiver weapon. They can run the ball. If you look at how they do the scheming on offense with the line, they're one of the best teams at scheming to run the ball and to fake you out. And then they have a really good back on top of it who can run the ball also, and Kyle Juszczyk that I really like. And I think he's a weapon there too in the blocking game and helping that team out, especially with the Jimmy G. So I would say they are. I would say they definitely are right now the biggest threats to the Eagles. But before we wrap things up, how about you tell everybody about Manscaped and everything about it?
Well, Manscaped, for all you men out there that shave your balls, I guess. It's more than just that, right? I mean, you gotta feel well groomed and hygienic and all that. Dating scene and things like that, right? And it can be expensive, but you join manscaped.com and use your free code with A2D, you get 20% off plus free shipping with that A2D code at manscaped.com. And 20% off plus free shipping with code A2D at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. And again, just like all these different things we talk about, the deals you can get, you're not going to beat them anywhere else. With the deals you're going to get signing up with these A2D packages. And Daniel, I mean, obviously, me and you both like facial hair, things like that. But you're somebody, we just talk about looking at you. You always got the razor and you're over there grooming your stuff all the time, making sure it looks pretty. And you got it the way you want. I know you're taking advantage of this A2D, and there's a lot of people out there like you. There's just different things about it, but nobody else is offering a package like us to get a deal like that. Make sure you jump on.
And now's the time to come grab it. You can't beat that 20% off. But we'll be back next week, of course. We'll talk a little bit of Week 5 recap against the Arizona Cardinals. We'll do a little bit of Week 6 preview. We got the Dallas Cowboys coming into town for Sunday Night Football for Week 6. We got Phillies playoffs. We'll be talking. We'll have 2 or 3 games to talk about. Hopefully, we'll be talking about that moving on to the next round of the playoffs.
Hopefully, it's live, right? Hopefully, we get that time slot, like that 8:30 time slot, where it can be, live into that game for us,
So hopefully, we can talk about that, and then we can squeeze a little bit of NCAA football talk into that as well. But other than that, that'll wrap things up for tonight's show. Of course, I am Dan. This is Zach. This is another night of the weekly roundup on our Tuesday night time slot. It's been nice moving to Tuesday from Saturday. And thank you, everybody, for chiming in. Once again, thanks for the Super Stick $4.99 Super Sticker that we got today. Everybody chiming in. Poll question, which of course is Rob Thomsonand the next Charlie Manuel. But other than that, see you guys. We'll talk to you guys next week.